What's up, everybody? Welcome on in to a live edition of War Chant TV. It's time to talk recruiting because Michael Langston is joining us here. The Saturday Night Live event coming up for Florida State on Saturday, obviously. We'll get to that and all your questions over on the premium recruiting board. A reminder, if you're not a member of warchant.com, what better time to join the family than now? Use the promo code WARCHANT30 for 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. Michael, this is like the last... Like you're on the top of the mountain right now, right? You're just ready to slide down this and get into vacation. This is the big thing, though, right? The SNL event. This is it.
Yeah, this is the big one. I'm ready for it. I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun event and it's gonna be a busy weekend, but it's gonna be fun.
All right. So during some of the scenes that you guys see right now on your monitor, whether you're on your computer or your mobile device, you'll see a scrolling ticker. These are the names that Michael's been able to confirm that will be at Saturday Night Live. If they don't have a designation next to their name, that means they're a 2020 prospect. Obviously, if you see 2021, that means they're a 2021 prospect. If you see an asterisk next to their name, that means they're currently an FSU commit. So it's at the bottom, but all of it, again, is at warchant.com over at the premium recruiting board. And Michael, people are hungry. They want answers, man. And there's a whole bunch of questions they have for you. So I guess let's just go ahead and start it off, shall we? This is over on warchant.com, the premium recruiting board. And we will start off with, let me see here. All the nuggets are up right now, by the way. So if you're a member and you don't have the time to listen to this entire stream that we're about to do, or you're at the office and you can't listen, go again to the premium recruiting board. And all the nuggets that Michael's about to give you all now is kind of there for your own viewing pleasure. So here we go. First question, Tally Knoll 28 asks Michael, number one question, on the offensive tackle Walker, I don't know his first name. Maybe you
Isaiah.
do. Isaiah. I was going to guess Isaiah. Number one question, offensive tackle Isaiah Walker, are you confident he will be at SNL, and where is FSU in that recruitment?
Well, I'm not confident on anybody until they get there, right now, I think FSU feels that they expect them to be there. And now Isaiah is liking to throw in some, surprise in there that he doesn't want to reveal where he's going to be this weekend. But from what I've gotten from FSU, and it's been consistent, that they expect them to be there. But, I mean, you never know. As far as where they stand, I would say, Florida, Miami's probably the leader, and then Florida's behind them, and then FSU is slightly behind Florida. So I think it's kind of in that order right now. But having him in SNL is major. I mean, they need to get him there, and if he doesn't come for that event, it really doubts my chances or doubts my feelings that they can pull Isaiah, because this is an event that you need to have him at.
Yeah. All right, next question comes from Boss Knoll. He's been a member since December 2002, man. He's OG. Have you heard anything positive, Michael, regarding Knighton, Jalen Knighton, I think, right? Whether he's attending SNL or FSU still being a player in his recruitment?
Well, I think FSU's a player, but I think I'm skeptical he's going to be in SNL. That's why we haven't listed him. I've been consistent with that as far as this week. I think Ohio State's gonna win out there unless he surprises me and a lot of people and shows up for the SNL event. So right now, I think Ohio State would be my forecasted pick right now.
All right, man. Was there a point, Michael, where Florida State was a leader for him?
Yeah, it was several times. I mean, actually in the spring, before he even took this Ohio State visit, FSU looked to be in pretty good space, pretty good position. But just gut feeling, is on the information, Aslan, but it's like I got the feeling this kid, been to FSU 4 times, and it's almost like my gut feeling is like he's looking to get out of the state. I mean, because he was going to go to Clemson, but then they cooled on him. And then FSU hit the picture, and it's like, okay, FSU looks like they're in a good spot. FSU was feeling confident, and then he took the Ohio State visit, and then bam, it's all of a sudden everything's swinging towards Ohio State. So it's just a gut feeling I get just being around talking to people that, that are around the Deerfield Beach program, that, he seems to be a guy that he hasn't said it to people, but it's kind of like the feeling I get is that he's kind of looking to get out of the state. But this thing could all go swing in a totally different direction if he shows up at SNL. So we'll just have to wait and see. But if he doesn't show up for SNL, I think you can pretty much lock him in for Ohio State.
Gotcha. All right. Next question comes from Joey _B33. This is a tough one, Michael, so I hope you're ready, man. I don't know if we warmed you up enough, man. We're bringing you right into the hot stuff right here. Rank Florida State's top 5 running back targets in order and
Whew.
where Florida State stands with each, in your opinion, of course, Mr. Langston.
Well, I think Jalen would be pretty high up there, but I mean that one's looking like it's not like it's all focused on the guys that. I think Kevon Lee's very high. I would put Kevon, and it's hard to put the top 5 because they're so close together. But if I'm going to pick them, I would say not in any order because there's no way I can do it because they're so close together. But I would say Kevon Lee, Dejon Edwards. And Lawrence Toafili. Those are the main ones. And then after them, I think I would have Keziah Holmes. He would be in there. Now if Knighton was available, I think Knighton would be my number 1. So that would be the one I can say for sure number 1. But the other ones, there's no way I can list them as far as top. Who 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just like they're all close together as far as. As far as where they stand and how much FSU wants them. But I do know they're pushing hard for Kevon Lee. They want that kid bad. So I would say he's probably in their top 2, top 3. So I think he's a guy they really want. So it's but a lot of these guys are all clumped together. But if, like I said, once again, if I was picking a top guy, I would probably say Knighton. But that would be my guess. But that's kind of where I think things stand with that top 5 there.
All right. There you go, Joey. Making it tough, but Michael figuring it out anyhow.
That's the best I can do, Joey. I'm sorry, but it's hard to limit these guys, rank these guys when they're viewed kind of similar in a lot of ways and how the staff views them. So
I get that's all. I'm sorry, Michael. But that's kind of a good thing too, I guess, for Florida State since they seem to evaluate these guys all pretty similarly. That if there's not going to be that much of a drop off from option A to option C, it seems like.
Right, exactly, and I think perfect world FSU would like to get 2 pure running backs, and then if they can grab an athlete like a Keziah Holmes or somebody to that level, or that fits that kind of skill set, I think that will be a perfect situation for FSU to have 2 pure running backs and then 1 athlete. That's kind of what they're shooting for, but I think the main thing is getting 2 backs in this class. They got to get 2 backs in this class.
All right, right on. Let's see. Your next question comes from Kurt OFD78. He's another OG. April 30th, 2002 is his join day. Hey, that's awesome. Like 17 years, people. You just join floorchant.com, and then sure enough, you'll be sticking around for that long. He asks you, Michael, if you were a betting man, which I don't think you are, Michael, because you're smart and you know not to bet, what would be your over-under line for commits coming out of Saturday Night Live? So I would say like 2.5. So I mean, like, would 3 be too much or 2? I mean, what would you set the line at, Michael?
I would set the line at 3.
Oh, okay, that's bold. I like it.
That's just, I mean, I just have a feeling. I mean, like I've told people when we wrote the commit watch story, I don't know for sure these guys are going to jump on board, but I just have a feeling, they're going to get 3. Wouldn't shock me if they got 4 and getting 1 underclassman or something like that, because we see that all the time at SNL. As far as the event. So, but I would set it at probably 3. That would be my guess. I mean, I don't think you're far off, Aslan, with your opinion of 2, 2.5. I think that's safe, but we'll see. I mean, my guess would be 3 if I was guessing.
All right, I like it, Michael. We'll take it. A lot of people are going to say push. A lot of people are going to be like, well, there'll be 3 on the nose. That's why you got to add the hook in there, the 2.5.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Jay Gurman. Michael, are players committing earlier this year than in the past, in your opinion? The negative recruiting has been eating away at neutral commits, and I wonder how this affects the staff's strategy for chasing after committed players from other schools once the season starts. Maybe you can address how winning momentum might affect this class versus past years.
That's a really good question. And to his first point, yes, they are committing early because a lot of kids want to get their commitments done before the summer or after the summer. Before their season starts. So, yes, it's happening more and more, and I think it's only going to increase each year where more kids get that done. Now, will they stick with those commitments is really the thing. But, I mean, negative recruiting is going to happen, and FSU's got to expect to get negative recruited against when you go 5-7. So the fact is FSU's a 5-7 team until they show it on the field, until they play Boise State. Now, you beat Boise State, you get some momentum going, and then the winning what kids see from the offensive line, what kids see from the offense. I think that's going to be a big deal. I don't think kids are really worried about their defense. They know FSU's defense is going to be stout. I think they feel, last year they were on the field a lot. So I think most kids are sold on that. I think what kids want to see is this offense. They want to see, how it blocks, how the offense moves, how organized it looks, how exciting and dynamic it is. So I think those things will affect their recruiting going forward, where it'll have certainly a pretty solid effect as far as helping their recruiting. But right now, that's just what they're facing. Until they play on the field, the staff knows that they have to show it, and until that happens, the recruiting is going to be a grind.
Next question, Michael. Warchant user 2023 says, I understand stars do not matter. However, is it a concern that the Noles are not recruiting at a high level? I understand we're doing great at quarterback, receiver, defensive back, but the game is won in the trenches.
Well, stars do matter in certain aspects, but I've always said, like, the talent is what matters to me. I mean, it's like, and it depends on your system. What your system is like, are you getting guys that fit what these coaches want and what these coaches can coach as far as their position and how the offenses look? If you get in an offense, you want to have, big time playmakers everywhere with a lot of speed. As far as Browse, you watch his offenses, that's what he has. So you want to add guys that fit kind of mantra. You want guys with size and speed. I mean, that's kind of the challenge, but I think it's just, it's different. It's a lesser version of what they had, and a lot of that's a result of what you saw, what they did on the field, and recruits wanting to know if they're going to turn it around. And I think a lot of recruits do want them to turn around. I think it's just they have to see it, and I keep beating a dead horse with that on the boards about that, but recruits have to see the product before it starts to take off. But if they win, it's going to take off significantly. But that's the key, is can you do that? Because right now, people are skeptical. Even recruits and families are skeptical until they see it on the field. And yes, they're down a lesser version of what they've been. Their struggle is real. We see that with guys they're missing on. And I think you can pinpoint pretty much what the issue is like a lot of people aren't sold on them until they show it. So I think that's really the concern of a lot of recruits.
All right. I just had a technical difficulty there, but it's fine. We'll live.
Okay.
We're doing good, Michael. Folks, this almost didn't get off the ground, but Michael slapped me into shape and got it working. So Michael for the win. We got two questions from RealJ88. First, he asks, what is up with Isaiah Dunson? I know he's from Georgia, and UGA has decided to put the full court press on him. Seeing as he's not coming to SNL, can we expect him to not be in the class?
Well, he is coming to SNL. He's been on our list for. He's been on our list for about 4 or 5 days. So he's been on there. He's coming. Everything I've heard is that he's a firm commitment. I haven't heard much about Georgia pushing. In fact, Georgia's pretty almost set as far as the defensive back position. I think they're going to add Klee Ringo, a talented DB. So I don't think you have to worry about that as far as with Isaiah. I think everything I've heard with Isaiah Dunson is that he's firm in that pledge to FSU.
The second question from Real J, Michael, involves the quarterback position. Obviously, Florida State in very good position with Jeff Sims, the bell cow, all that good stuff. What is the status of a second quarterback? Will there be a second quarterback? What are maybe a couple of the names that you're hearing?
I'm not confident there'll be a second quarterback in this class, just because the second quarterback is going to be a guy that's a developmental guy or a really good athlete that you can take time that you can develop and bring along. You're not going to get, very rarely are you going to get two Jeff Sims type of guys that are rivals 250 talent like that. I mean, it's very hard to get two in one class. So I think if you do see one, you might see somebody like Cade Renfro. He's going to be he's committed to North Texas, but he's going to be at SNL. He's a guy to watch, see how he performs. So I think he's the guy. If you're going to lock on somebody, I think that will be a guy to watch. And if we hear more names later, I'll address them as the season goes on. But right now, I don't think it's a major priority to the staff to add a second quarterback. You consider, Hornibrook's going to be there this year. then he graduates. I'm assuming he's a senior. He's going to be a senior
Yeah,
going in this
he's
year.
grad transfer. Yeah.
So you'll have James Blackman. You'll have the two guys that came in Wyatt Rector and Jordan Travis, um, and then you have Jeff Sims. That's four quarterbacks. I mean, I'm not good in math. I didn't get good grades in math, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that's four. But uh, I think you're pretty good at that position as far as four. If you can add another one, that solidifies it. But I don't think it's a major priority. But Cade Renfro would be the guy to watch.
Side note here, Michael. I know, as much as people hope that you're the guy that's ranking these players and giving them their stars, you're just one voice in this loud, crazy room over at Rivals.com. Do you see? I mean, how far do you think Jeff Sims can go, just in terms of where he'll be ranked when all is said and done? If he has maybe the senior season that you project that he's capable of having.
I think his ceiling's probably Rivals 100. I think he could get to that level. I think he should already be in the Rivals 250, in my opinion. I've stated that. I've made that clear. I would have him in the Rivals 250. I think he has the skill set to be in the Rivals 100. I think he just has to show it in games, show the big playability, show what people have seen already in 7-on-7. That's not football, by the way, guys. That's people running around in shorts and timing and accuracy and all that stuff, fun stuff. But we have to see what he does on the football field. And if he can show he can make all the throws, he's dynamic, I think he's the guy that can reach that Rivals 100 status.
All right, let's see here. We got a question about offensive line recruiting. Who'd have thunk that was going to come up again, Michael?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Northwest Florida boy. Do you
Rough.
think Clements and or Briles have done a good job of recruiting the offensive line so far? I know it hasn't been too long since they've been hired, but I thought it would be a major focal point for the offensive staff to get offensive linemen in here.
Well, here's the thing, guys. Clements is one of the best offensive line coaches out there. And by all accounts, Kendall Briles is one of the best offensive coordinators. They've both shown it wherever they've been. But they're coming into a 5-7 team. They haven't shown anything on the field, so recruits don't have anything to base on except what their past histories are. A lot of recruits you're not going to land just because you were good in the past. They need to see it in person. So as good as they are, you can't really tell how good of recruiters they are until we see a product on the field. Then once you do that, and if they're still not getting guys, then yeah, you can have questions about the recruiting ability. But offensive line's always been their first priority. But I mean, to be honest, I mean, this has been going on for 3-4 years as far as problems with offensive line recruiting, in particular the offensive tackle recruiting, which is it's almost like a plague to get an offensive tackle in the for FSU. But I know this is not going to be popular with people, but you have to see patience and let these guys coach some games, and then we can you will see the development as far as offensive linemen getting guys on campus more and improving their offensive line situation. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to be a situation where recruits and families have to see what these guys can do, and once they show that, and if they do what they've been doing, those previous schools, FSU's not going to have, I don't think, too hard of a problem getting offensive linemen in here in this class.
Northwest Florida boy also follows up with, why has there been a significant drop-off in defensive line recruiting for this class? Is there a particular reason you think there are not more commits on the D-line?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. That's an interesting question. It's been interesting because we know Odell knows his stuff. Odell's put so many guys in the league. Maybe kids are questioning how long he's going to be doing it. Maybe how long he's going to be there. So maybe that's the question. I really can't put a finger on the exact reason. Maybe it's the defense they saw last year that wasn't really impressive. They're on the field a lot, gave up a lot of points. But my guess is I think a lot of people recruits question how long Odell's going to be there, and then who's going to step in that place. But that would be my answer to that is. I think it had to do the longevity of Coach Hagan's being there, because it's certainly not what Coach Hagan's does. I mean, Coach Hagan's resume speaks for itself.
Odell's going to coach till he's 105, everybody. Chill out.
Okay.
Chill out. There you go. You heard it from me. Next question. We're gonna look down the road, proverbially, literally, figuratively. Although he's not in Thomasville anymore. That hurt my feelings, man. Chad Masco left Thomasville, went to IMG. But Noel Maker asks you, Michael, I know it's further down the road, but where does Florida State stand with Chad Masco from Thomasville now at IMG?
I would say they're the favorite right now still.
Okay.
That's his favorite school. He's at IMG, but his family's in Thomasville. He goes back home quite often when he can, when they let him go back home. But I think FSU is still the team, that stands out to him. It's always been his favorite school. I think it's so early with him that it really hasn't taken off with anything. But I think right now FSU looks to be in a good spot. And he likes that offense that Braz runs. That's kind of fits his style. Up tempo, fast paced, spread offense. That kind of fits what he wants to do.
Is he 2021 or 22?
He's 2022.
And he's already at IMG.
Yeah.
Can't start him too young, I guess. Apparently, man. Good for him.
Yeah, he hurt his leg too. He sprained his meniscus when I was there, and I don't know how long he's going to be out. It seemed like it was a season anything, so hopefully Chad's okay and we get to see him play this year.
That's crazy. I mean, if he's 22, he's like what? He's probably like 16 right now, and like he's living 400 miles away from home, and he's going to be doing that for 3 years if he does stay down there. That's crazy, man. Good for him though. He'll be ready, I'm sure. Next question comes from Back in Day. Asks you pretty much, it looks like 22 slots he's thinking. Do you think the class will be at 22 before the Boise State game?
True. I don't think it'll be that high. I think it'll be kind of close to it, but I don't think it'll be quite that high because some kids are going to take official visits. FSU has the no visit clause once you commit, so I think some kids will want to take some officials before they, make a decision. I think if you get these, say you get 3 from SNL, I mean that boosts. I don't even know what the number. I guess that would boost them up to 17, but it gets you to a pretty good number. But I don't think it'll be quite that full. I think FSU is going to want to take their time with certain positions and make sure that they get the right guys. But I don't think it'll be quite that high.
Michael, do you think there's like, I don't know, maybe like a week buffer after SNL to where if they don't get any more commitments a week after this Saturday, that's pretty much going to be it until, I don't know, October or November? Or do you see maybe recruits even trickling in late August and September?
Well, I mean, we're going to go, once SNL's over, you have another dead period from the 1st to the 31st. So when FSU's practicing or all these colleges are practicing, you're not going to see anything. But that's always almost impossible to answer because so many kids come for once you start the season, kids visit officially for your home game. So, kids could commit right there. So I think it could come any point during the season. Kids say, oh, I'm going to wait till so-and-so, and then it seems like that never follows through. It usually happens on a visit. So I think you could see stuff throughout the season, as far as decision goes.
Okay. Folks, by the way, again, if you don't have a lot of time to sit through the rest, we've got probably a dozen more questions. Michael's going to answer every single one of them. If you're a member of warchant.com, you can head over to the premium recruiting board and you can get your full fill of all the information that we're about to go over in these questions, as Michael's looked at most of them and answered them and put in his nuggets. If you're not a member, use the promo code WARCHANT30 for 30 free days of access to the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. And if you're a student at Florida State, this is the best thing here. If you're a student from Florida State, email us from your student email address. Email support@warchant.com from your Florida State University student email address. We'll give you a promo code for 12 months of access to Warchant for $12. The entire year, $12.
Wow.
That's it. It's crazy. It's awesome. And it looks like we're going to keep that promotion going for a long time. So definitely get on board if you're a student. Tally Knoll 28 comes back with another question, Michael, and you've already kind of talked about running backs, but he specifically is curious to know about where you think Florida State stands with Lawrence Toafili from Pinellas Park High School. Do you think the staff is pushing very hard, or do they have other targets ranked higher?
No, I think he's very high on their board. I think Dejon Edwards, him, Lee. I think those guys are all high. Certainly they like Kazai Holmes, but I kind of put him in the athletic category. But with Philly, yeah, they're very high on him. They wanted to get him over for SNL. I haven't heard if he's coming or if he isn't. I don't even think he's taken anywhere to visit anywhere. But I think he's kind of just taking this slowly, where he wants to take official visits once the season starts. So I don't think he really wants to get active with his recruitment until the season actually starts. And certainly FSU will get an official visit. I think you're probably looking at the Miami game for him from when I was over there in the Central Florida area when we were over there. I think he kind of hit it to me a couple times when we talked that it'll probably be the Miami game that he came over. So I think his recruitment probably will ramp up once once the season starts and he starts taking officials to different places. Probably Ohio State, Michigan. Those are two teams I've heard. Florida is also another team he'll probably officially visit. But I think he's kind of waiting. He's seen enough teams that now it's about the official visits.
T. McGrady 1. I don't know if it's Tracy or not. Could be. Possibly. He's been around since November 5th, 2003. Asks you, Michael, were you surprised when Timothy Smith, who's a 4-star defensive tackle out of Sebastian River High School, were you surprised when Timothy Smith committed to Bama seemingly out of the blue during the dead period the other day?
If you know the kid like I do, not really surprised, because he's a quiet kid. He doesn't like a lot of media access. I did hear in the last 4 weeks before leading up to that Alabama was starting to push hard, and I knew how highly he thought of Alabama, but I also knew how highly he thought of Odell. FSU was hoping, expecting that he would come over for SNL before he made a decision, but I think most people and most of these coaches for every team that was in the mix for him, I think most of these coaches felt like that he was going to make a decision in the next 2-3 weeks. So I don't think I was surprised at the decision, because what Alabama does with defensive tackles and how I knew he viewed Alabama. I don't think Alabama was like the leader, but I don't think he was clear that Alabama was a leader. But just based on people around Sebastian River, they kind of told me that Alabama's kind of a school he's waiting on to hear from them how much they want him. And I think once they turned up the heat, I think that one was over.
Okay. Staying on the defensive line, staying on the interior of it, Team McGrady 1, T-Mac, follows up with, aside from Jerzon Newton, 3-star defensive tackle out of Clearwater Central Catholic, CCC, that used to be in my backyard growing up, man, the Marauders. Aside from him, who I like, T-Mac says, and thinks he has great upside, who are the major defensive tackle targets on the board that are legitimately in play after Smith fell off to Bama?
Man, that's a tough one. I think the main thing is Newton right now that I've heard. I think he's one of the guys that I think's probably going to jump on board. So I think he's a guy. I would have to, without the hot board in front of me, I'd have to refer back to the hot board of some of the stuff I have in there. But I'd have to think about that one to kind of figure out which guy, because I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest. I mean, I'm drawing a blank as far as all the exact teams.
You don't have 80 players memorized, Michael? You don't have 80 players memorized off the top of your head, man? That's
I'm going to do something live here,
that's
guys. I am. No, that's good. I like that, Iceland. I'm going to look at the hot board while I talk to you guys.
I'm pulling it up, man. Yeah, what do you think about McKinley? We got McKinley Jackson, Eric Taylor, obviously Manny Rogers, part of the tribe now. Perrion Winfrey, Montre Edwards.
Yep.
I guess those are some of the names to kind of keep an eye on, right?
Right, exactly. And there will be more. I mean, there's always more when it comes to defensive line. But to be honest, really, if you're talking about, if you add Newton, that gives you 2, and with this defense going to the 3-4. You're going to have guys like Newton that play inside and outside. So there's going to be more guys. There's going to be more, players involved. Got a guy like Montre Edwards from, Mississippi. And there's going to be more guys that are added to. It's really difficult to put in perspective defensive line recruiting, because with this staff, they they're recruiting guys. With the 3-4, you have some guys can play defensive end, some guys play defensive tackle. So it's kind of, you're gonna have several guys that are defensive ends that could end up being listed technically as a defensive tackle. So I think that's something people have to consider. But give me a little time, Mr. McGrady there, and I will dig up some names for you. This weekend I'll do some digging and see if I can find out
check out the
some
hot
other
board.
targets.
It's up right now on the premium recruiting board. It has all the information you need. You can read it. It's fantastic. We got a question from Lumbago6. Do you think, Michael, that most coaches around the country are pushing this whole philosophy of commit and no more visits rule that Willie has started?
Yeah, I think that's something that you'll see a lot more coaches do, because especially the ones that are established, programs, I think you're going to see them do this more, because the thing is, it's like they want to mean something when you commit that. And I don't think recruits are going to go shy away from this either, because it's also beneficial for kids that they don't have to deal with this stuff. They don't have to worry about coaches contacting them, and then kids that know other schools that know you have that policy, they're gonna leave you be. They're gonna let off the gas a little bit and move on to somebody else. So I think it kind of works out good as far as that, and I could see it happening more and more, not just FSU, but I think it happen throughout the country. I think it's gonna pick up steam. Doesn't mean everyone's gonna do it, but I think more and more teams are gonna just adapt.
Here we go.
That
We got
policy.
more future questions. Crystal ball, look into the future for us. Lumbago6 also asks, will a good season impact the 2020 recruiting class or the 2021 class more?
I would say the 2021 class more, because it's hard to just all of a sudden you have a great season, a kid just jumps on board and then bam, it's not. You have to get to know that program, and sure, there's going to be 2020 guys that your season impacts, but it'll be felt more with the 2021 guys, because then they don't have to worry about what your product's on the field if they're sold on that product. Then we already know FSU is selling a really good, solid culture. So now, a kid feels really comfortable when you get earlier commitment. So I think it's more beneficial for the 2021 class than it would be 2020. But it's going to help either way. If you have a positive season, say you win, 9-10 games, it's going to have a very good effect on both.
Maxwell Gibbs follows up, Michael. It kind of dovetails really nicely. Asks about, if Florida State wins 9 or 10 games, what elite recruits that are in wait and see mode or committed elsewhere do you think could wind up in this class?
Well, that's another impossible question to answer, because I don't know who it depends on when we hear something about them setting up a visit to FSU, and then I can kind of address it from there. But there isn't some guys that are just sitting around like, man, I hope FSU's good so I can just decommit from this other school and go here. They're watching them, but I mean, that's almost impossible. I can name like 25 guys, that have told me that, so I think all the guys that I've covered on the hot board, guys that are even in the picture, even if they're committed elsewhere, like Michael Redding, that's one. If you want me to list one, that's one that I think a big season would have a solid effect. I think one of these running backs, say Knighton goes to Ohio State, if FSU has a good season, that might change things for him. So guys like any guy I've covered, as far as in the hot board that you've seen, I think those are the ones that it'll be impactful on as far as a good season. But until we get to that point, that's kind of mute stuff. That's why I have to wait to see them setting up visits and yada yada and that stuff. And then on the offensive line, you got guys like Richie Leonard, who told me he's definitely, when he made that final decision, he shut it down. But you just never know. What seasons tend to change guys' minds. So my main answer would be focus on the hot board and the guys I've covered, and with a good season.
Yeah.
Those are the
I
guys
mean,
that watch.
Florida hasn't had the best offseason themselves. I mean, they're coming off a good 2018 season, but the offseason hasn't been friendly to them. And who knows what happens if they fall off this year? If there's a sophomore slump for Dan Mullen, and the door can
Yep.
open up for possible guys like Richie Leonard, like you mentioned.
Yep.
Maxwell Gibbs also asks a nice little curveball question here. What recruit currently committed do you think is most likely to not be in this class?
I would give you one. I
All
honestly do
right.
not have
What?
one.
I guess that's the good thing, right? Like everybody's
Like,
sold in. Everyone's bought
like,
in.
I cannot list one guy that I can think of. I know people pick like Isaiah Dunson, but like I said, everything I've gotten is that he's firm pledge, and you look at all these guys that. I guess if I'm listing, thinking of one guy, I guess if I could just. I don't think there's any concern there. I think he's very firm to FSU, but maybe Josh Griffiths, if you get, Penn State's trying to push there, but he seems pretty strong in the FSU. So that, like I said, I'm pulling stuff out, guys. It's hard because all these guys are very firm in their pledge. So, but if I was picking one, I guess I would say Josh, just because I know Penn State's still trying to push. But at the end of the day, I don't expect him not to stick, but. You pushed me for that question.
Michael's
I'm just
playing by the
giving you what
rules.
I can give you.
I'm going to jump ahead to a question here, Michael. Norway85, if you're following on the premium recruiting board on warchant.com, I'm going in a chronological order of the questions that have been posted, but this kind of ties into what we just talked about. Stack63 asks, he's noticed that there have not been many decommitments. There's been no decommitments yet this year, while other programs have had so many. What do you attribute this to?
Well, I attribute one to the new rule, the rule they put in place of, once you commit, you be locked in, and they're not pushing kids to commit just to commit. They're saying we want you to visit other places, but it's also all these kids are sold on what the future is going to be at FSU and what these coaches are not just talking about but showing. And good example of that was last year with Jaleel McRae, or even he came in there for a visit. He Coach Woody had told him some stuff to say, yeah, academics is a big part, and Jaleel kind of saw what other linebackers were doing, and it was like wow, he's actually showing and following through what he exactly said and went into detail. And it also had effect on Jayon McCluster, and there's been others at other positions. So I think the main thing is these coaches have done a really good job of selling the culture and the expectations of what they're going to be once they get all the players that fit everything of what Coach Taggart wants to do with this program. And I think kids are buying into everything they're doing, and I think that's been a big part of it. But the big thing is not pushing kids so hard just to get a commitment, just to say, hey, we got this guy, but he's going to take other visits. I think it's to say, this is our commitment to you. We want the same kind of respect as far as commitment. We don't care if you take visits, but I think it's what they sell as far as FSU in the future, but also the connection and the comfort level they have with all these coaches.
This is it's almost like we've choreographed all this. You just said the word connection, and Nolway85 asks, and I think that this is a really good question. Based on your Saturday Night Live list, it looked like over 50 kids might come. How do the coaches manage to connect to so many kids in a meaningful way in just one day?
Well, SNL is not just one day. So that's the first thing I would say to that. Most of these kids are going to stay multiple days. Secondly, you have a lot more support staff and people around that are going to aid into you break a lot of these kids up in the positions where they spend a lot of detailed time. Say you got the receivers. The receivers are all get quality time one-on-one with Coach Dugans and or their area recruiters. So these schedules for things like SNL and official visits, these things are planned out months in advance of what they're going to do for every guy. FSU knows every guy that was going to, or that they're expecting for this. So they know what to do, what he likes, his likes, his dislikes, what's going to work, what's going to be the focus, what they want to do as far as what's the most important to each kid. So it's just about spending your time and schedule, and all these kids are going to get detailed time with FSU. So this is not their first rodeo. Like I said, these things are very well planned out as far as SNL. I gave people kind of a layout schedule the other day so people can kind of see. But there's a lot of prospects, but at the same time, each prospect's not doing the same thing all the time. Like one guy will be doing a facility tour, and another guy will be doing academic stuff. So you're able to spread it around because of the administration you have at FSU in helping in these areas. So it's very well planned.
Wow.
That's the only thing I can say.
Amani Patrick 14 asks you, Michael. Here we go. This is the question I think a lot of people have on their minds. Not that these other ones haven't been, but this seems to be a question that a lot of folks that are watching us on YouTube Live right now are asking as well. They're not members, which is okay, but use the promo code WARCHANT30. Check us out. 30 free days. Like it. Love it. Live it. You'll be part of the members. You'll be part of the membership for life. I can almost assure you. It's that good. Amani asks you, Michael, does Florida State have a legit shot with defensive end Savell Smalls? 5-star.
Right to the punch, huh? Right now, I would, if signing day was day, they wouldn't get him. If that's what you want me to say, it's like they would not get him if signing day is day. Likes Alabama, you hear Alabama, we hear Georgia, we hear Oregon, we hear Florida. But I will say this, that his visit this weekend is massive because he already loves the culture at FSU. What he doesn't know is, how he feels, being around Coach Hagens, what his coaching style is. He'll be able to see that this weekend and then build comfort level. After that, I can answer your question a little bit more realistically. But before that, there's no way I can answer except to say that I wouldn't pick him to go to FSU right now. But after this weekend, that's what I'm kind of going to focus on is how comfortable does he feel? Not just when you're a football player, but as a student athlete. How does he feel when he's on that campus? What kind of vibe does he get? Be curious to see, are you bringing your parents with you on this visit? I think he is from what I hear, but how do they feel about it? So those are little things I have to dig up and do some checking on. And once I know that stuff, then I can give this guy a more direct and extended answer where I can cover a lot
Obviously,
of different things.
though, a good sign that a kid is paying his own way to come check out the campus for this event.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty big, and it tells you his interest level. He's pretty high on FSU. It's clearly. I mean, obviously Trayshawn Harrison's here. He's really close with him. He loves Taggart. He loves the culture. There's nothing for FSU to do there. Loves the players. Bonded really good with the players when he was here. Like I said, the focus for Savell Smalls is going to be how do I fit in this defense and how comfortable do I feel with Coach Hagens? Do I feel more comfortable with him than I do these other coaches at Alabama, at Florida, at Oregon? And that's going to be the key. Because you remember, last year, everyone was like, oh, Kayvon Thibodeau, there's no way FSU is going to get him from the West Coast. And FSU led for a while until that Oregon official visit and decided to stay home. But if you like a guy and you like a coach, it doesn't matter where you live. You can pull it off. So it's doable. But we have to see the connection of how he feels about this defense, how he's going to be used, and what he thinks, even more importantly, the most important thing, I think, is how do you feel about Coach Hagens and his
Michael,
coaching
none of these recruits that are visiting, these are all unofficial visits, right? Okay.
Correct.
MEI Seminoles asks, chance of Shedeur Sanders committing at SNL and becoming the bell cow for the 2021 class. Here we go, just nonstop, Michael. Let's do this.
I don't think that'll happen. I think he's in a process where he wants to see some schools. He wants to see. He definitely wants to take some official visits before he gets to that point. I think the big thing that FSU could do solidify themselves as the clear favorites. I mean, that's what I'm kind of looking to see what they got this weekend. This will be the first time Shadir gets to work with these coaches and work with Kendall Browns and work with, Coach Taggart and see what this offense is going to look like as far as them giving them stuff that they can run. So I think that's the big thing that I'm watching is, how comfortable is he with Kendall Browns? And can FSU just make it clear that they're the clear favorite? Would it shock me if he committed to FSU? Not really. His dad went there. For all intents and purposes, FSU was one of the first schools he visited. He loves FSU. He's been to FSU several times. But do I expect it? No, I don't. I don't expect him to commit this weekend. So, but the answer to be clear is, I think the biggest thing for FSU this weekend is solidifying their standing and being the clear favorite for Shadir
All right, folks, we're a quarter away from the top of the hour, going strong here on the FloridaStateWarChant.com recruiting chat. Saturday Night Live's coming up. Michael Langston joining us. If you're a member of WarChant.com and you're just joining us, you can go to the premium recruiting board, and pretty much everything Michael is talking about, he's already listed and put out into the nuggets that you guys like so much, and you can read and catch up. If you're not a member, again, use the promo code WarChant30 to check us out. This whole entire Q&A will also be available for replay immediately after, but we're not done yet. We still have questions, and let's get back to it, Michael. Addicted to Knowles doesn't specify, but says, do you predict a lot of these guys will get a bump in ranking? I guess the guys that are already committed to Florida State, is there maybe 2 or 3 guys you see maybe getting another star? I mean, you've talked about Jeff Sims potentially cracking the Rivals 250, maybe even the Rivals 100.
Mm-hmm. I guess I can go through them on the top of my head. I think Keyshawn Green, he's a guy that I think once people see him, he's a Rivals 250 guy. I think if he takes the next step, outside chance at Rivals 100, I think one I want to see about him is how he covers. I want to see more about his covering ability. But he's a guy. Jeff Sims, we already discussed as far as what his high level potential could be. I think the rest of these guys, I think it really just depends on the season and what they do. Like Rivals needs to see these guys more in person. I think we need to see Zane Herring, offensive lineman Madison. We need to see him take a step forward as far as showing more than just being a powerful guy that pushes people around. We need to see the footwork and see more of that stuff. So I think there's several guys on there that could be bumped up. Josh Griffiths, he's a guy that I was very impressed with when I went to see him at IMG. He had a really good day when I watched him. Josh kind of told me something funny. He said, I only knew like 1 or 2 moves before I even got here. So now he has like 7 or 8, 9 moves. So it's shown a big difference for Josh once he's learned the technique. So I think he's a guy you could see get bumped up to a 4-star. But those are just a few. But I think it really just comes down to we have to see what they do.
Here's another really tricky question, and it's from Addicted to Knowles, Michael. Golly, man, the questions you guys ask Michael are fair, but they're so tough to answer, and he sits here and does it all with a smile. I don't know how you do it, man. He asked, if Florida State gets off to a hot start, will there be many new names we have not heard of coming to town for the Miami or Clemson game? Although Clemson is going to actually be in Death Valley, Addicted to Knowles. So the Miami game. It if they start off really well, by the time that game Miami rolls around, which I think is actually in November, could there be elite guys, Rivals 100 guys that maybe aren't on the radar? Is that something that's practical that could happen, that these guys start maybe tuning their ear a little bit more to Tallahassee, Willie Taggart, and Florida State?
Yes, that's very possible. That's very possible. We've seen that over the years, even when Jimbo was here, that, Jimbo, people think Jimbo just came in here and everything, and people forget the struggles, but once they started getting going, you go from 70 recruits coming from a Miami game for like 130. So, and then you get elite guys on campus. And so, yes, if they win and they have a great season and they go into that Miami game with a really good record, yes, there's going to be some elite guys that come in there. Now, before people follow up with that, like what guys, like I don't know what guys, but I've done this long enough to know that, recruits take notice as far as checking a school out, once they see a difference and a change. And once that change happens, you'll see a difference, and you'll also see a difference if say Miami and Florida struggle. You're going to see guys that are on their commit list that probably going to check out FSU that are elite. So guys like Jalen Rivers, Chance Williams, and then Florida's got a few guys. So I think there's going to be, first of all, you got to win, and then we can kind of broach that question then. But yes, it's very much a possibility.
Hey, Michael, I hope you like these difficult questions. They're not going anywhere. They're just ramping up. I should have probably read all these beforehand. Soldier Man asks you, Michael, and I just Googled the kid. He's a real person. I don't see him with a Rivals.com profile, but he asks you, have you heard of Eli Daniels out of Bradenton Southeast High School? If so, has the staff heard of him? He's a 2021 kid. Again, he doesn't have a Rivals page, but apparently it looks like he's a running back. He does have a huddle. I haven't watched the highlight because I don't want the sound to go off while we're playing this, but is that a kid that you've heard of in circles about, emerging as a prospect for the 2021 class?
Okay. I've only heard the name, and I've watched. It's ironically, I watched this film 2 weeks ago, but I only heard his name. I haven't heard him around FSU circles and anything like that. But I know about his name. I don't know enough about him, to give you an educated breakdown of his game. But he's a guy that I like. I liked. He was pretty good, but really, I have to study him more. But yes, he's a name I have heard.
Word Chant User 2023 is back with another question. This one is probably another difficult one to really peg, but asked if Florida State has a good to great season, anywhere between 8 to 11 wins, what happens, Michael? There's only so many slots. I don't know. I mean, I guess, kids are going to want to come here. I mean, I don't know if he's asking I don't know if he's trying to ask if there's guys that Florida State is currently have committed that they would cool on, but I feel like there's no way they would do that because the whole don't commit until you know for sure. So I would imagine that even if, a 5-star comes, you figure out a way to make room for him. Maybe that's attrition on your current roster and not so much a commitment. But if Florida State wins, let's say they go crazy, Michael, and they win 12 games, and 5-star offensive linemen want to get in on this. I mean, they'll find a way to fit them in, right? Every staff finds a way, right?
Considering they can't get any offensive linemen, I'd say they pretty much take that bet, offensive line. But no, I mean they would adjust. I mean they would adjust things as far as they know guys that have potential interests, not just guys that they're waiting to see the season that they talk to consistently. So. You can adjust that stuff. Obviously, you can't do much adjusting at linebacker since they're pretty much stacked at that position and full as far as what they can take this year. But places like defensive end, you can adjust some things and what guys you want and what guys you can take. But I don't know what he means by what can I guess he thinks they're going to drop some players. I don't see that being very likely, but they will certainly adjust to what guys, say they were pushing after guys that haven't committed, they might lessen and cool on those guys and then go after the guys that are higher rated. But
or maybe Michael, if there's only 4 slots and there's 10 guys in the Rivals 100 that want a piece of it, maybe they'll just invite them all to Tallahassee, like steel cage match. And the first 4 guys that walk out alive get the scholarship. I mean, maybe something like that. Arm wrestling contest, maybe. We'll see how that goes. Travis Miller, 22, has got 2 questions for you, Michael. First one, do you see Tisdale, I don't know the first name on it, but he says, do you see Tisdale jumping on board after an offer?
Yes, that is in one of my nuggets, actually. I think if he gets an offer, he will be a Seminole. That's my vibe and feeling. FSU feels confident that if they offer, he's jumped on board. Now, will they offer? That's what I don't 100% know, but I think if they do offer,
he also has another question. Who's more likely in this class, Savell Smalls or Isaiah Walker, and why?
Well, right now, I'd say Isaiah Walker's who's been to FSU's campus more frequently. I think he's visited FSU twice already, maybe three times. Hasn't been in a while. That's why I think it's important that he's in SNL because he hasn't visited since I think the spring game. But I would pick him. Plus, he's an in-state kid. It's easier for him to get there. He has connections with Telly Lockett. They're close. He has FSU has several members on their staff that's really good in the Miami area. So plenty of people he knows. So there's more connections with FSU and him. With Savell, it's like you got Trayshawn Harrison there, but besides that, you got coaches he likes, but there's not as much a personal connection like there is with Isaiah Walker. If I had to pick one,
Travis Miller, 22, with his last question off the top rope. At weak side defensive end, not strong side, weak side defensive end. He's got a question about that. Do you see Florida State making a real push at Lateri Kinsler?
Not this time. He's not a name I've heard that they're pushing for. I know exactly who he's talking about, but he's not a guy that I've heard a lot of movement with in regards to FSU. Now, could that change during the season where they watch him and it's like, man, we got to have this guy, and then they go after him? Yeah, that could happen. But as of right now, no.
FSU Fools got a really long question. He's been around since February 5th, 2003. Yeah, that's a long one. That might be the longest tenured guy. Or did we have somebody from 2002? He asks you, Michael, can you give your opinion on the earlier and earlier demands of recruiting athletes now being pushed into their sophomore year in high school? Many teams seem to essentially be done with their classes before their players compete in their senior year. Does this make it harder to assess potential since these kids are 15, 16 years old? Does this leave a lot of kids who are late bloomers available for those teams that are not recruiting at an elite level?
Well, I think we're seeing that with Desmond Tisdale. You have guys like, schools like South Carolina and Auburn, and, the word is like, Auburn's close to being full, and then, South Carolina might have other guys, and they're considering, but because you did so many early evaluations, you've taken these kids so early that now, these guys are going to get passed over. So there's going to get what you're going to see more of is talented kids get passed over. And I don't agree with it. I don't really think you should really truly evaluate somebody until you get to the junior season, because there's so far to go as far as what their skill set is. Now, there's certain positions where you can see it, what they're going to be, how talented they're going to be, you got to have that guy. But I'm just the type where you got to look at every angle as far as the prospect of what their skill set is going to be. And once you know how they fit in your system, then I say go for it. But if you don't know that, I don't know if that's, that's something that you want to push for, because then you start taking guys that are based on potential more than you do based on, the fit for your program. That's my opinion is the fit of your program should be the biggest factor as far as when you recruit these kids. And that's the thing with me, but that's just my opinion. I know these schools are recruiting earlier and earlier, but these guys are getting recruited like freshmen. It's like, it's kind of crazy to me, but because they're just going to be such a different player than, by the time they're a junior or senior. So,
he kind of follows up with a question. I don't know if it's more rhetorical than anything, but he was wondering, how do you think Taggart and the staff handle their assessments of these kids? Are they good at finding kids with potential that are getting left out of the Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson classes?
I think they're doing a really good job of getting guys that fit their program. I think there was a few calculated mistakes they made in the first year, like not taking Jaden Daniels when they had the chance at quarterback and waiting on Sam Howell and those little mistakes. But I think overall they're getting the guys that fit what they want to do. As far as in that 3-4 defense, to getting guys that getting the right defense, giving the right cornerbacks, getting the right safeties, getting the right players in that system. And then with Browse getting that speed, getting more speed as far as in his offense, and maybe even getting more speed at the running back position. So I think they've addressed that very well as far as addressing not just needs, but also guys that fit what they want to do. Now, one thing they haven't done, and beating a dead horse, is the offensive tackle position. That's been dreadful. So that's something they're going to have to change, and they're going to have to show it on the field to get that done. But overall, I think they've hit on guys that fit what
We
they
are
want to do.
now at the top of the hour here on the East Coast, 4 p.m. Hope you guys are enjoying this. We've got maybe a half dozen questions left. We're going to get to them all. I'm going to have to invest in a different chair if we do this again. I'm on this wooden stool, and it's killing me right now, Michael. Guy Knoll, March 29th, 2002 is his join date. Man, look at that. Look at that. What up, Guy Knoll? He thinks that if Florida State can break last season's 5-7 brand inertia and get some positive vibe, movement, and momentum this season, he hopes that they can do more than just hold the players they've got, hopes they pick up a couple highly ranked flips. So he asks, if Florida State were to win 9 games this year, what range do you think this class will finish? Will they be top 5, top 10, between 11 and 15, or between 16 and 20? Okay.
I think top 10. I would say top 10. Now it's hard, it's going to have a little impact as far as the 2020 class, more so in 2021 if you have a solid year. But the one thing that's outside of that I haven't discussed is flips, that you can get guys to change their minds as far as flipping over. And, I think that's more likely than it is you just all of a sudden these guys that haven't committed anywhere just check out your program and you just get them. We've already seen, some schools, places kids take several visits and to get everything that they need to know about the program. So I think flips could happen as far as that goes, but top 10 would be my pick.
Got a question from Smiley Knoll. Smiley Knoll asks Michael, he's been around since April 12th, 2002. Good man, the people on the premium recruiting board are lifers. They're lifers, man. Yeah,
my guys, man.
Smiley Knoll asks you, Michael, how many offensive linemen does Florida State sign this year? Do you think there's any possible junior college players on the offensive line, grad transfer tackles this year? I'll jump it. I think grad transfer stuff that you won't know until after the season is over, obviously.
Yeah.
JUCO's another sort of tricky thing. But yeah, I mean, how many offensive linemen do you think Florida State signs, or do you think they're targeting? Do they have a number in mind, do you think?
I think five or six is kind of the number that they would like to get. That will be, they want. Certainly, they're going to look into JUCO and grad transfers, as you said, Aslan. Grad transfers don't happen until late in the season, so we're not going to know anything with that. JUCOs, they don't really take their visits till after their seasons most of the time. So unless they have a break between weeks and they have one of their bye weeks, where you can snag one on official visit on the open week they have, you're looking at a later in the season type of decision there. So, yeah, I think they'll approach those situations, but, 5 or 6.
Tally Knoll 28 had a question about Tisdale, but I think you've answered that. I just want them to know that we do see the questions, but you've already touched on that. Okie Knoll, he's been around since February 5th, 2003. Why do we schedule an event when we know IMG recruits won't be able to make it? Could we have not made this at an earlier date?
Well, they could have. They could have scheduled it earlier, but then you just basically, the only way to do it is maybe hold it in June, but then in June you have all these big cat camps for Auburn, you have the dog night for Georgia, so it makes it, you're competing against, you're going to compete against somebody. But the good news for FSU with the IMG kids is really those two guys are already committed. So they've been to FSU like 3 or 4 times. The only guy that you would like to get back on your campus is Michael Redding. So, and he's going to likely see your team during the season. So I don't think it's like a major deal right now with the IMG thing, but you're going to juggle that no matter when you do it. If it's not then, if you do it in June, there's going to be a problem in June where you're competing against, and then you don't get all these prospects. But with FSU having it on this date, there's really no competition in state-wise, except for if a kid wants to stay multiple days at Florida. Florida's thing's going to be the night before. So if some kids are visiting Florida, then they're going to Florida State. So it kind of works out good. Miami's already had their Paradise Camp. That was in June. So technically, if you're big on the IMG thing, yeah, they could have had it in June. But if you did that, then you might lose some of these kids that are coming this weekend for this event. So it's like, what do you want to cut out? You want to cut out IMG, or you want to cut out more of these top prospects like Savell Smalls, or some of these top guys that are coming there on the list? So you got to think about that.
Last week was ACC kickoff. I mean, it happened on Wednesday, but that probably been a tough turnaround for Taggart to be in Charlotte and turn around. And then the weekend before that, obviously, was the 4th of July, so you're not going to get a lot of kids to come to campus on a holiday like that. So. We got a question here from Krupster. I think we've kind of talked a little about it, but maybe this is a little bit more of a focused question on it. But Krupster, who's been around since January of 2005, asks, do you think the staff evolves its position on summer officials with the increase in kids committing during the summer or before the high school season starts? The whole cycle has moved forward with the early signing period. Is FSU being stubborn?
Well, my opinion. I mean, people know my opinion on this. I thought it was a mistake not to. My thing is, kids that are deciding in the summer, you need to find a way, especially if they're in state. You need to find a way to get them on campus for an official visit. If they're deciding, you need to get done. Now, FSU's take on this is, we don't want kids officially visiting when all we got to show is our 5-7 record. So we still have to prove it on the field. So what they're hoping is, we're still going to recruit all these kids that we didn't get that committed elsewhere, and we'll bring them in an official visit then. And then if things start cooking good, we'll be able to get these guys on campus and maybe pull them. That's kind of the way they look at it. I don't think they're being stubborn. I think they're kind of looking at, like, we don't want to get burnt like we did with Sam Howell and Nick Cross and guys like that. And I think they're looking at the big picture of, if they have a good season, it's not going to matter that they didn't give the summer official visits. I don't necessarily agree with that. Guys like Jalen Knighton, I think that kind of official visit, would have made a big impact. And there's been other players, but I can see both sides of it. I just lean more towards, I think FSU would increasingly turn more to taking summer official visits later. I think they'll reevaluate that.
Right. Krupster adds, Krupster's opinion on this matter is that he personally doesn't see the appeal of a summer official visit. There's not many students on campus. The party scene is way more low-key versus during the season or even in January. But if kids want to take visits, then accommodate it. But, it's one man's opinion.
It's a catch-22, Aslan, to be honest. I mean, because I understand the FSU's view, but also understand you get more of an atmosphere when you have these kids an official for a game. It's just totally different. But that's why I say, if you're going to get officials, give the officials to the in-state kids, because those kids can easily get back for your games. But now out-of-state kids, I think I would lean more towards maybe waiting.
We got 2 more questions, Michael. We're almost there, man. Almost there. This one, I don't know if either of us are going to have a really good answer on it, but it's Bowden Knowles 93. With the recent Ohio State NCAA penalties, even though minor, how does this play with Jalen Knighton?
I don't think it really has a factor into it. If it did, it would have had a lot bigger fact than right now when he's going to make a decision. So I don't think it plays into that much.
All right.
Not from what.
Last question then. It's from Joanne24, September 18th, 2006 join date. Use the promo code WarChant30. You can be like Joanne. Would FSU take Webb or Tisdale if they do take another linebacker?
Well, they prefer Webb. I mean, Webb's phenomenal. Webb's a Rivals 100 type of talent. He can play. You can play him as an outside linebacker, or you can play him at the buck position if you need to, a defensive end. So I think preference would be Webb, but and that's probably where they're conversing is is the Webb an actual chance? I mean, I hear he's pretty solid lean to Auburn, but is there any chance? If there's not a chance, then you don't need to wait around. You need to jump on Tisdale, get it done, and wrap up this linebacker class. But that's kind of a decision that Woody and the staff have to figure out. But if I was picking one of them, I'd pick Webb.
We went an hour and 10 minutes. Pretty much everything we've talked about is already up on warchant.com's premium recruiting board. The nuggets, they're all up there for you. If you're not a member, promo code warchant30. Use it, folks. I mean, just try it out. Woo. You'll like it. You'll stick around, and you can get all the inside information from Michael as it happens, as opposed to waiting for one of these live chats that we'll do once a week, once every 2 weeks, or what have you. But you spoke for an hour and 10 minutes, Michael. You've answered, I think, like 30 questions. Everything's on the website. SNL's this Saturday. Any last sort of thoughts before we go for the day?
I'm interested to see just the reaction of families at SNL, and just, one, how many commits they get. That's always the first thing you think about. But also just how effective they are with the families and the impressions they make. I think it's going to be a fun weekend.
Coverage from SNL will be wall-to-wall on warchant.com. Michael will be out there. I'll be out there. I don't know, even the big guy. Maybe Gene will be out there as well, too.
Yeah.
So we'll have interviews. Michael will have some of his insight. We'll film as much of it as we're allowed to, and we'll put highlights of that up on the YouTube page as well. So it'll all be there for you to enjoy. But as it happens, it'll all be going on warchant.com. Be sure to stay connected with us. For Michael, I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for watching, folks. We'll catch up with you all later.